Good day. So we will now start with the radiographic film artifacts. So film artifacts, when we say film artifacts, this refers to sorry any optical density on the radiograph that is not okay. So they are not, or that is not caused by superimposition of anatomy in the primary X-ray beam. So when we say primary X-ray beam, so this is the X-rays that comes from the tube. So this is our tube towards the patient. So if this is our patient, so this radiation is considered as the primary X-ray beam. So again, when we say film artifacts, so this is an optical density on the radiograph that is not caused by superimposition of the anatomy in the primary X-ray beam. So if there are superimpositions of the anatomy that you see in the radiograph, so that is not considered an artifact, okay? So that is not an artifact if there is a superimposition of the anatomy. Also, film artifacts refers to the undesirable. So since they are unwanted, they are artifact. So they are undesirable. So they are undesirable densities or blemishes on a radiograph that that can interfere or pwede siyang mag-cause ng misdiagnosis with the radiologist by limiting. So it can also limit the entire view of the image. So because of the presence of these undesirable densities or because of the blemishes that are found in the radiograph, so the radiologist will not be able to see the actual anatomy or the actual pathology of the image on the radiograph. So it will be possible that he will be having a misdiagnosis. So another definition or description of film artifacts, this refers to sensitometric or physical defect on the film. So sensitometric, it means that it sensitized the emulsion of the radiograph. So when the emulsion has been sensitized, not because of the primary radiation, so it can also interfere. It can also lead to misdiagnosis because it will show a different image. Or if it does not sensitize the emulsion, artifact can also occur through a physical defect. Like for example, if you scratch the film because of your long fingernails, or if you wear lotions, so it can also damage the films or the radiograph. So they can cause artifacts. Again, they are unwanted, useless images that will interfere with the interpretation of the radiograph. These are also marks which are, so wrong grammar tayo, which are foreign to the radiographic image and not necessarily imposed by the action of X-ray. So again, as I have mentioned earlier, these are marks, foreign. So they are not, what do you call this? They are not innate. So they are not naturally there on the radiograph. They are foreign. And they are not necessarily caused by radiation. Okay? So these are the different definitions or descriptions of artifacts. So next, there are two classifications of artifacts. So it refers to, as I have mentioned earlier, sensitized artifacts and non-sensitized artifacts. Wait lang. So when we say sensitized artifacts, so as I have mentioned, so these are the artifacts that is caused by sensitizing the emulsion. So it can damage the emulsion and it will lead to sensitized artifacts. So some of the causes of sensitized artifacts are, wait, I'll just use the marker, are dirt deposits. So yung mga dirts, yung mga dumi, alikabok sa dark room or during processing. Also, scratches because of your fingernails. It has reached the emulsion, so it damages the radiograph. So these are artifacts that result from any type of exposure that sensitizes or damages the emulsion. So also, some of the examples include static electricity, pressure marks, and extraneous radiation. So we will discuss that along the way. For non-sensitized artifacts, so these are artifacts that is caused by the physical damage to the film. So as I mentioned earlier, scratches due to fingernails. So pwede siyang maging non-sensitized if it scratches only the overcoat or the supercoat. Okay? So, you know where the overcoat and supercoat is. We have mentioned that sa previous lectures. But if the fingernail scratches the emulsion, so it can be referred to as a sensitized artifact. So there are three general radiographic time period in which artifacts occur. So ito yung mga usually na time kung saan most likely mangyayari ang pagkakaroon ng artifacts. First, during radiographic exposure. So during radiographic exposure, artifacts may occur if you have not thoroughly checked your patient. Maybe she or he is wearing a necklace, or he has coins in his pocket, or he has some metals, bracelets, earrings, what else, dentures. So pwede siyang mag-cause ng artifacts. Then, next, during processing of the film, so pag hindi tama yung pag-process mo ng film, hindi mo nasunod yung tamang proseso, yung step by step na process, so pwede siyang magkaroon ng artifacts. And lastly, when the film is being handled and stored, that is stored, not stores. So letter D, stored either before or after processing. So pwede siya magkaroon ng artifacts before processing, kahit hindi mo pa siya nagagamit. Like for example, if naiwan mo na bukas yung film box and then nakabukas yung ilaw, so magkakaroon siya ng artifacts. Kahit nasa box pa siya, kasi nga hindi siya nasara. After processing, handling, like for example, basa pa yung film mo, like sa manual processing, and then it catches a dirt or dust, or your finger marks, your fingerprints, so that can also lead to artifacts. Okay, so next, the exposure artifacts. So these are associated with the manner in which the radiographer or the rad tech conducts the examination. So this means that exposure artifacts are mainly caused by the rad techs. So they are the ones responsible for making sure that exposure artifacts will not occur in the radiograph. So examples are incorrect screen film match. So if we have remembered in our previous discussion, the screen film matching is very important. So the color of light emitted by the screen must match with the color of light in which the film is sensitive. So if the color of light emitted by the screen and the color of light where the film is sensitive does not match, so it will result to an exposure artifact. So there will be degradation or hindi magiging maganda yung quality ng ating radiograph and ng images. So it can result again to artifact. Next is we have the poor screen film contact. So if the IS or the intensifying screen is not properly in contact with the radiographic film during exposure, so this can also result to an exposure artifact. Okay? So, warped cassette. So, if the RadTech uses a damaged cassette, so hindi siya flat, hindi siya pantay all over, it is warped, so it can also result to exposure artifacts. Another one is improper positioning of patient and grid. So, this is true way back, so before pa, because we are using grid separately. But today, we can avail a cassette which has already a grid. So there is no need to exert an effort to properly position the grid in the patient. So, but still, there are some facilities, old facilities that uses separate grid and cassette. So this can also result to exposure artifacts if the grid are not properly positioned in relation to the patient. Another one, patient motion. So this is the most common. Again this is, saan na yung pen ko? This is the most common cause of exposure artifacts. So, most common. Another one, let's go back. So, patient motion, because we cannot entirely control our patient from moving, especially with the involuntary motion, like a heartbeat, like peristalsis. Okay, so what we are doing as a rad tech is that we are using the fastest time possible or the shortest time possible in order to avoid patient motion appearing in the radiograph. Because if you use longer exposure time, so the patient, for example, in chest x-ray, cannot hold his or her breath that long. So, ang mangyayari is, talagang hihinga yung patient, and that will result to blurring. Next is double exposure. So, if you have used the film inside the cassette and you forgot to take out that film because your co-rad tech did not inform you that that cassette has already been exposed, and then eventually he or she left it at the control console, and you x-ray another patient, you use the same cassette, so there will be double exposure. For example, you can see that if the first exposure was the hand, then the next exposure was the skull, you can see hand and skull overlapping in a single radiograph. So usually, these exposure artifacts are easy to detect. So madali lang siyang makikita and also easy to correct. So with the screen film contact, for example, so there are labels in the screen and the film. So you will know if your film is sensitive to blue light, to green light, or to all colors of light. Also with your screen or your IS, there is a label. So you can also check if it emits blue light, green light, or all colors of light. Okay? So that is easy to do. So to avoid these exposure artifacts. For poor screen film contact, we have tests. conducted QA/QC tests, quality assurance, quality control test, called the wire mesh test. So, wire, as in wire, ano ba yan? Wire mesh test. Wire siya ha, as in wire. Wire mesh test. So, ito yung QA/QC test na ginagawa natin to make sure that the screen and film are properly in contact all over its parts. So, hindi na siya sa gitna, properly contact. Dapat lahat ng parts ng screen ay in proper contact and in uniform contact with the film. So, madali lang din siyang ma-detect and to correct. Warp cassette, so pag hindi na maremedyohan yung cassette, so bili na lang ng bago or gumamit ng ibang size ng cassette na hindi siya warp. So, madali lang. Improper positioning of patient and grid, as I have mentioned, hindi na siya most likely problema ngayon because we have cassettes that are already embedded with grid. For patient motion, again, as I have mentioned earlier, we use the shortest time possible to avoid patient motion. Double exposure, so madali lang din. So you just inform your coworkers that the cassette has been already used, or after exposure, you go to the darkroom and process it and place a new fresh film inside the cassette so that to avoid double exposure. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Next, the processing artifacts. Of course, from the name itself, this occurs during processing of the radiographic film after exposure. So generally, they are related to improper exposure techniques. So usually, ang problema or ang cause ng processing artifacts is that mali yung exposure techniques, mali yung KVP, yung MAS na ginamit, and other relevant factors. And because of that, we don't have the capacity or the capability to change that because yung latent image is already there sa film. Okay, so that is the most common cause of processing artifacts. So these are examples of processing artifacts. Okay, so next are the dirty rollers. So this is the first example for the processing artifacts. So dirty warped rollers can cause emulsion peak-off and gelatin buildup. This results in sludge deposits on the film. So, yung dirty rollers, so this can be found sa automatic processing. So, inside an automatic processor, meron siyang mga rollers. So, ang purpose ng rollers is to convey the film from one section to another, like for example from developer to fixer to dryer, etc. So along the way, if the rollers are dirty, so the dirt in the rollers can also embed on the film. Okay, next, they usually appear as sharp areas of either increased or reduced optical density. So yung appearance ng dirty rollers na artifact or yung artifact na caused by dirty rollers, so there may be part of the radiographic film which has an increased optical density, or there may be part of the radiograph which has a significant decrease in the optical density. Occasionally, particles of sludge. So when we say sludge, these are collections of dirts. So are transported through the processor and are actually dried on the film in the dryer. So as I mentioned, nasasama siya sa film or sa radiograph na in the dryer. And eventually, nakatatak na siya doon. Therefore, it can lead to misdiagnosis because this dried sludge, will interfere with the anatomy or the pathology of the patient as seen on the radiograph. So, figure 5, this is from my book, severe emulsion pick-off artifact caused by dirty rollers. So, scratches, ito yung mga scratches as you can see, yung white. So, scratches are black arrows caused by misaligned guide shoe. So, yung guide shoe naman is also part of the roller, the lowermost part of the roller. Okay? So ito yung mga spots. Ito yung decreased optical density. And then there are also parts of increased optical density. So they are also caused by dirty rollers. So the white arrow here indicates the direction of film travel. So dito papunta yung ating film. And then this artifact is caused by a guide shoe. So ito also is an example of an emulsion pick-off caused by dirty rollers. Tinawag siya na emulsion pick-off because it has picked off the dirt or the sludge from the rollers and nasama na siya dito. So it is a reduced optical density in this case. Next is the chemical fog. So it is an improper or inadequate processing chemistry which results to a chemical fog, and this is referred to as a dichroic stain. So pag sinabi nating dichroic, two colors. Okay? So this appears as curtain effect on the radiograph, a general term applied to all chemical stains. So this is dichroic, not dichotic. So this is correct. This one is correct. Dichroic means two colors because usually yung color ng dichroic stain na makikita natin sa radiograph is either orange or yellow or brownish something. So the chemical looks like light or radiation fog and is usually uniform dull gray. So yung appearance ng chemical fog, pareho din siya ng appearance ng light fog or radiation fog. So mahirap siyang i-differentiate from light or radiation fog because yung appearance nila is a uniform dull gray appearance. Again, ito yung colors niya, yellow, green, blue, purple, pero sa iba meron siyang parang brownish na orange. So, curtain effect. So, as I have mentioned here, curtain effect may either run down the leading edge of the film or runs up the trailing edge caused by improper squeeze from the film. So, para siyang kurtina. So, pwede, for example, ito yung ating radiographic film, pwedeng andito siya, pwede din dito, or dito sa, excuse me, dito sa gilid. Excuse. So, next, the roller marks. O yung, actually, para siyang kasama din dun sa dirty rollers. Kaya lang, it is as most specific siya sa guide shoe. Guide shoe marks occur when the single shoe in the turnaround assembly of the automatic processor are sprung or improperly positioned. Pag sinabing sprung, so parang nagkabuhol-buhol siya or it is improperly positioned. Ganito kasi yung appearance ng rollers. So for example, ito yung rollers. So dito sa gitna, papasok yung ating film. And then, bago siya makapunta sa next stage, dito banda, meron tayong guide shoe. So, yung guide shoe is nandito. So, iikot siya, papunta ulit dito yung film, and the same process continues. So, ito yung guide shoe. The turnaround assembly of the automatic processor. The ridges, kasi para siyang metal, the ridges in the guide shoe press against the film. So, yung pinaka-ridge niya, ano bang yung ridge? Para yung ka-surface niya. So, it improperly iniipit niya masyadong tight yung pagkakaipit niya sa film, and hanggang sa masensitize na. Yung emotion is nadadamage in some point, and it will leave a characteristic mark. Guide shoe mark can be found on the leading edge or trailing edge of the film. Okay? So, katulad nung nakita natin kanina, dun sa may black arrow, so may line siya. So, those are examples of guide shoe marks. So, also here, a processor-related plus density. Pag sinabing plus density, increased density. Therefore, it appears dark. So, linear artifacts include entrance rollers and artifacts caused by inadequate washing of film. Ito yung black part niya. So, pwede siyang caused by entrance rollers. Yung entrance rollers, yung syempre from the entrance. So, the arrow indicates the direction of the film. Okay? Next is the pie line artifact. So, tinawag siya na pie line because yung artifact occurs every 3.1416. This is inches. Sorry. So, because of the dirt or chemical stain on a roller. So, again, because of the rollers. Since the rollers are 1 inch in diameter, 3.1416 inch represents 1 revolution of a roller. So, yung diameter niya, that is 1 inch, 1 inch. So, yung isang revolution niya, isang ikot niya represents a 3.1416 inch. So, sa bawat ikot niya, maglilive siya ng mark. Example, eto siya. So, ang distance nito is every 3.1416. So, which is equal to pi. So, kaya tinawag siya na pi line artifact. Next is wet pressure sensitization. A common artifact, mali na naman yung grammar. A common artifact produced in the developer tank. So, nangyayari siya or nag-occur siya in the developer section of the automatic processor. This is caused maybe by irregular, so hindi na ayos yung pagkaka-arrange sa rollers, or dirty rollers which can cause pressure during development and produce small circular pattern or increased optical density. So, pabilog siya, small circular pattern or increased optical density. So, actually, if you come to think of it, yung mga descriptions ng artifacts, marami silang pagkakapareho. So, may mga iba na may distinct, like sa pi line, 3.1416, pero may mga iba na pare-pareho, like chemical fog, light fog, radiation fog. So, pareho yung itsura nila. Okay? Okay, for hyporetention, so again, it is a yellowish stain slowly appearing on the radiograph after storage time, and this indicates a problem with hyporetention from the fixer. So, as we have discussed last time, so hyporetention is caused by the retention of the hypochemical, which is also the ammonium thiosulfate. Okay, so ammonium thiosulfate. So, yellowish ang color, and hindi mo siya makikita agad-agad after processing. So, it will occur on the radiograph like 1 to 2 weeks or much longer than that. Okay, so this means that the ammonium thiosulfate from the film during processing was not properly washed or was not completely removed. So if thiosulfate from the fixer solution remains after washing, silver sulfide slowly builds up. So the silver sulfide slowly builds up and they appear yellow in the stored radiograph. So we are done with the processing artifacts. So next is the storage artifacts. So pasensya na, medyo masakit ang lalamunan dahil medyo matagal ding hindi nakapag-lecture. So hindi na exercise ang aking golden voice, ang aking voice box. So artifacts, again, storage artifacts, this result from the way the film is stored. Okay? So how you store your film can or may be result to the production or the occurrence of the storage artifact. So for proper storage, the fresh film, so when we say fresh film, it refers to a film fresh from the box. So should be stored where the temperature is between 15. So the temperature must be between 15 to 21 degrees Celsius or 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And the relative humidity inside the storage room, it must be between 50 to 60. So actually in other books, it is between, ano ba yan? Sana siya. Pasensya na, medyo maingay yung chainsaw doon sa labas. 40 to 60%. So, para uniform tayo, so during exam, during quizzes, so the relative humidity is 40 to 60%. So, that is, ito yung tinatawag natin na range. Okay? So, pag sinabi naman, what is the recommended relative humidity, pag hindi nabanggit yung range, pwede natin sabihin na 50%. 50% lang. Pag range, 40 to 60. So again, the temperature inside the dark room or inside the storage room where you store your fresh film must be between 15 to 21 degrees Celsius, and the relative humidity inside the storage room must be between 40 to 60% or approximately 50%. Film is supplied in boxes of 100. So, isang box ng film contains about 100 sheets of film. Some is packed in an interleaved fashion with chemically treated protective paper between each sheet of film. So, minsan, ang ingay. Teka. So, yung sinasabi natin na some is packed in an interleaved fashion with chemically treated protective paper between each sheet of film is that, halimbawa, ito yung mga films natin sa loob ng boxes. So, in between, meron siyang special paper. So, ang purpose nito, dito, nilalagay sila in between para hindi magkadikit yung ating films. So, para iwas din ng ibang types of artifacts during storage. Okay? So, each box also contains, pero hindi lahat ganyan. Meron naman kasing iba na, for example, ito yung films natin. So, magkakadikit sila and then, meron siyang parang, ito yung usual na nakikita natin. Parang puting cardboard dito. Okay. So, actually may plastic pa siya black plastic. So, ganun din dito. So, anyway, so, sa box, we can see that there is an indicated expiration date. So, makikita natin kung hanggang gaano katagal before mag-expire yung film. So, usually, the shelf life of the film is about 1 year. Pero, pwede siyang ma-extend provided that we have we have to observe the proper storage protocols for long-term storage of the film. So actually, hindi naman siya agad-agad nag-expire ng 1 year. Kaya lang, hindi na ganun kaganda yung quality ng ating images sa radiograph pag lampas ng 1 year. Like for example, naka 1 year and 6 months siya. So, may image pa din naman, pero hindi na siya ganun kaganda. Hindi na ganun kaganda yung quality ng images. So, just like any other materials, just like any other things, so it must be used before its expiration date, again, as I have mentioned, which is usually after 1 year of purchase. So, also, these are some things that we must remember for proper storage of film. So, store film boxes on edge and sequence rather than lying flat to avoid warping of the sheet. So, for example, if ito yung ating drying bench or loading bench. So, dito siya sa edge ilalagay. And then, dapat it should be on vertical placement. So, patayo siya. Ito. So, hindi pwede na pahiga. Okay? So, hindi pwede. Ito yung tama. Because, if ito yung paraan natin ng pag-store ng boxes of film, pwede siya magkaroon ng pressure marks, which is also a type of, what do you call this? A type of artifact. So, pressure marks. Dahil, especially dito sa baba, dahil mabigat yung mga films na nakapatong. So, dapat vertical. Okay? Not horizontal. So, vertical. Boxes containing film should be placed, bakit mali-mali yung mga grammar? Should be placed upright, as I have mentioned, or on edge so as to provide maximum support and should be stacked no more than 3 feet high. So, ibig sabihin, pwede pa siyang patungan dito as long as yung taas niya ay hindi susobra sa 3 feet. Okay? So, it should be less or equal to 3 feet. So, hindi naman kailangan na isang layer lang. So, pwede siyang patungan, again, as long as it should not be more than 3 feet high. Storing film flat may produce pressure artifacts or pressure marks I have mentioned. The film storage area should be free of extraneous radiation. So, pag sinabing extraneous radiation, these are radiation coming from the adjacent room or outside the storage room. Also, free from heat and chemical fumes to avoid spoilage or additional artifacts sa ating film. The stock should be rotated on the first in, first out principle. Ito yung tinatawag natin na FIFO or FIFO. It is the oldest, the oldest should be used first. So, ibig sabihin, pag ito yung stock natin, halimbawa, so yung dito, ito yung pinakaunang mag-expire. Okay? Ito yung pinaka last na mag-expire. Okay, so kukunin natin yung unang madaling ma-expire and so on. So that is first in, ito yung unang binili natin, therefore una siyang mag-expire, and since first in siya, so una siyang mag-expire, ito rin yung una natin gagamitin. So first in, first out. Records of the film used should be kept to maintain the system. So, yung mga sizes ng film na ginagamit natin, dapat naka-record siya. Para malaman din natin kung paubos na ba, kung kailangan na bang bumili ng bagong boxes. Para malaman din natin kung sa 100 na content, 100 films na nasa loob ng isang box, 100 ba talaga yung nagamit natin or baka yung 50 doon, 50 pieces doon, puro reject or baka 90 lang talaga yung laman. So, para sa mga ganong problema, ganong bagay, so kailangan may records tayo. Next is handling artifacts. So for handling artifacts, so improper handling of the film during transportation can be a serious cause of artifact production. So when you improperly handle the film or carry the film or the radiograph from the department to other departments or from our department to the radiologist, so if because of improper handling, pwede siya magkaroon ng artifacts. So examples are increased fog, pressure artifacts. So handling artifacts again ha, kahit hindi pa siya na develop. So increased fog kapag medyo mataas yung wattage ng safe flight mo. So kahit nasa loob siya ng box, pwede siya mag-cause ng fog. Pressure artifacts, again, pag mali yung pag-store mo, dapat naka-vertical siya. And sensitization are common problems associated with transportation handling. Also, perspiration from finger, especially if you are using oils or hand creams or lotions, fingernail marks, and static discharges can occur with improper handling in the dark room before or prior to processing. Also, please take note that film should not be bent. Ano ba yan? Should not be bent, creased. Kulang-kulang. Ito naman sobra. Creased and subject to rough handling. So, hindi dapat i-bend yung film, hindi dapat i-crease. And subject to rough handling para hindi siya ma-damage. Before processing, hands should be clean and dry. Again, as I have mentioned, avoid lotions and creams because pwede siyang mag-cause ng damage sa film. So, this is an example of a fingerprint. As you can see, ito siya. So, fingerprints left to exposure and after exposure. Next, we have radiation or radiation fog. As I have mentioned also, ang appearance niya ay the same din sa chemical fog, parang dull gray siya. So, the white light leaks in the dark room or within the cassette cause strict light densities on the film. Improper filter also of the safe light if the safe light is too bright or is too close to the film or is too close to the processing tray, fog artifacts can show up on the film. Pag masyadong maliwanag or mataas yung wattage ng ating safe light or masyado siyang malapit sa film processing tray sa ating automatic processor, masyado siyang malapit yung safe light sa automatic processor or sa master tank. So, it can lead to light or radiation fog. Also, films left in the X-ray room during an exposure can become fogged by radiation exposure. Radiation fog, light fog, and chemical fog look alike. So, isama na natin dito yung chemical fog. So, yung sinasabi dito na films left in the X-ray room during an exposure can become fogged by radiation exposure. For example, sa isang pasyente, ang request ay 5 exposure. So, iba-ibang exposure. For example, chest x-ray, skull lateral, skull AB. So, 5 exposures. So, hindi naman practical na after mo expose ng chest, punta ka na kaagad sa darkroom, tsaka develop, balik ulit, x-ray ulit, diba? So, yung ginagawa nating mga radtech is uubusin natin mag-conduct ng 5 exposures na kailangan since marami namang cassettes of different sizes sa ating x-ray room. So, minsan, pag hindi siya pag medyo natagalan or pag hindi siya na-protect na mabuti yung cassette with film na na-expose, habang nag-expose tayo ng pang-3, pang-4, pang-5, yung una, pangalawa, na nandun na-expose, pwede siyang ma-expose, pwede siyang magkaroon ng pag caused by radiation. Ito yung sinasabi natin na ito ko na siya isusulat sa latensification. So, pag sinabi nating latensification, it is the increased sensitivity of the film to radiation after being exposed for the first time. So, halimbawa, sabi ko nga, nag-expose tayo, first exposure, first cassette, and then, so, first cassette, nag-expose tayo, and then we have the second, cassette with film yun ha. So, first cassette, nag-expose. Nilagay natin siya sa control console. Sa likod ng control console, nag-expose ulit tayo. So, habang nag-expose tayo, so, hindi naman lahat ng x-rays na pupunta sa patient, yung iba, merong scattered. So, pwede, yung scattered radiation ay mag-interact dito sa first cassette natin with film. So, sabi ko, because of latensification, mas nagiging sensitive. Double yung sensitivity niya or twice ang sensitivity ng exposed film before processing. So, sulat ko. Paano ba yun? Sorry. Ito. So, latensification is the increased sensitivity of exposed film before processing. So, na-expose na siya, pero hindi pa siya na-process. So, mas sensitive siya compared sa film na na-process na. Okay? Before processing, pero na-expose na siya, mas doble, 2 times, twice, ang kanyang sensitivity sa radiation compared sa film na na-process na. Okay? Pag sinabi nating process, na-develop na. Okay? So, may manifest image na. So, I hope that is clear. Okay, so for kink marks, it is caused by improper handling or storage either, so this can occur before or after processing. So, it is due to rough handling before processing which causes scratches and kink marks. So, pag sinabi natin kink marks, ito yung parang tupi. Parang dog ear siya if sa book. Kink marks may appear as a fingernail mark, but actually, it is caused by the kinking or abrupt bending. So, natupi siya. So, abrupt bending. So, pag sinabing abrupt, so, madalian, mabilis. pagtupi ng film. Okay? And for static marks, the most obvious artifact caused by the build-up of electrons, so this is because of the build-up of electrons in the emulsion, are most noticeable during the winter, so wala namang winter dito sa Philippines, or during the periods of extremely low humidity. So, ibig sabihin, pag ang humidity inside the dark room is below or less than 40% ang humidity, it will lead to the production of static marks. So, kailangan between 40 to 60% ang humidity inside the dark room para walang static marks. Usually, it can be controlled by having equipment properly grounded and maintaining an adequate relative humidity in the dark room. So, possibly, possibly 50% or must not be below 40%. Kasi nga, 40 to 60. So, average is 50%. So, must not be below 40%. So, dapat hindi siya below. Dapat it should be greater than 40%, but not. Again, ha? So, it should be above 40%, but not, tama ba? Yes, above 40% and must be below 60%. Okay? So, dapat hindi bababa sa 40, hindi lalagpas ng 60%. Kasi pag 60% above, 61% above, so there will be another artifact that will occur. Okay? So, this is an example of a static artifact. So, also sometimes they are called a ladybug or dramatic-like appearance. So, yung dramatic lightning-like appearance, andyan sa book nyo. Ito siya, caused also by static artifacts, build-up of electrons. So, there are three distinct patterns of a static marks. We have tree static. So, yung itsura niya parang tree. Produces multiple branching dark lines. So, as you can see sa books. Crown static, yung parang ladybug just a while ago. And smudge static. So, parang ball siya, parang putik. Hindi parang putik, parang natalsik, parang talsik siya. Produce an irregular dark blotch on the film. Okay, so to summarize the different types of artifacts, their description and causes, as well as may mga additional tayo dito. So, ito yung table, which is also nasa sa copy nyo din. So, static marks, as I have mentioned, electron build-up or the result of electric yung pen ko lang. So, electric discharge on the film surface. So, appearance, so tree-like branching or smudge marks or small black pinpoint. So, tree-like branching caused by rough handling of the film, like rapid withdrawal of the film. Parang mabilis mo siyang hinugot. Smudge, from photographic exposure to visible light. So, parang may spark siya. Crown occurs when the humidity is low. Black point occurs when storing the film on top of the other. So, aside from the pressure marks, pag lying down, pwede din magkaroon ng black point, which is, yun yung pinaka-pressure. Yun yung yung part ng film na nadaganan. For fingerprints, so from fingerprints, obviously, caused by improper handling of the film, especially loading and unloading with wet hands. Not necessarily wet hands from chemicals or water. So, pwede ring wet yung hands mo because of lotions or creams. So, there are two types of fingerprints or finger marks. We have black ang appearance niya. Pwede ding white yung appearance ng finger marks. Pag black yung appearance, because ang kamay mo ay basa ng developer. Pag white naman ang appearance, so it is because of fixer. So, may mga parang white scratches siya. So, abrasion mark. Scratches on the film emulsion caused by contact with fingernails. So, parang nasira siya dahil sa fingernails mo or any other sharp objects. Appearance, parang white scratches din. Crescent marks. So, these are caused by scratches on the film. Appearance is scratches on the film caused by bending of film. So, incident of fingernail pressure or creasing of films. Tanaw siya na crescent dahil para siyang half moon. Air bells. So, appearance, undeveloped areas. So, undeveloped areas on the finished radiograph. Naputol siya, pero andyan sa book nyo. So, undeveloped area siya. Tapos ka na mag-process, pero may part na hindi pala na-develop. It is caused by non-agitation. So, pag sinabing agitation, ito yung up and down motion while we are processing the film. Okay? Agitation, up and down motion. So, when processing the film, especially in manual processing. So, caused by non-agitation of film during development. So, habang dine-develop siya, so, hindi mo siya na-agitate. So, may mga parts na hindi naabot ng chemicals. Reticulation marks or spidery. So, spidery has a net-like, parang sapot ng gagamba or web. So, actually, fine creasing or cracking of the film gelatin. So, yung nasira dito is gelatin. So, cause uneven temperature sa processing. Kaya dapat, kung ano yung temperature ng ating developer, ganun din yung temperature ng ating fixer. Okay, which is about sa old book, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So, we will discuss more on this sa succeeding na chapter sa finals natin. Okay, basta tandaan, reticulation or spidery marks because hindi pareho ang temperature ng ating processing solutions. So, dapat again, kung ano yung developer temperature, dapat ganun din sa fixer. Next, repeated outlines of hair and dust particles. So, syempre, appearance niya, so parang may hair, due to accumulation of hairs, dust particles in the cassette. So, hindi siya nalinisan. So, appearance, white density. Reversal action. So, para siyang negative sa mga old films, sa mga pictures natin before. This is due to excessive exposure to unsafe light. So, ibig sabihin, yung safe light mo, yung safe light mo is higher than the recommended wattage. So, the black shadow turns white and then the white appears black. Next is streakiness. So, strips of darker or pwede ding lighter densities. So, causes failure to agitate. So, just like sa previous natin kanina, dun sa, sige, ma-remember ko lang yan in a while. Failure to agitate the film during development. Inspection of the film during development. The developer then turns into streaks down in the film resulting in an even reduction of the emulsion. So dahil hindi mo siya na-agitate, up and down motion, so may mga part na masyado siyang na-penetrate ng developer. So yung ibang part naman hindi na-penetrate. So uneven or unequal. So also, it can be caused by interaction of developer and fixer due to inadequate rinsing. So, hindi mo siya nahugasan. So, yung developer chemicals napunta dun sa fixer. Addition of replenisher solution when film is in the developing tank. So, sorry, nag-skip. Hindi ko siya mabalik. Anyway, so bubble or track bubbling, light patches on these spots, the film is under or not exposed. So under or not exposed appears dark patches. So this is na letter B. So pwedeng because of a fixer na talsik before development. So before mo siya isawsaw dun sa developer, natalsikan siya ng fixer. Or drops of developer of water on the film before development. So pwede ring natalsikan siya ng developer pero hindi pa siya actually nasawsaw. Screen marks, distinct white marks or areas of lighter densities. So this is caused by dirt and dust particles as well as chemical stains on the intensifying screen. Mottling effect or noise due to contact with interleaving paper. So appearance niya black dots. So yung interleaving paper yung sinasabi natin kanina na placed between the film inside the box. Stains, so we have, paiba-iba yung spelling niya. Dichroic, dichroic. Dichroic stain, yellow or orange, blue, yellowish, brownish, pwede siya. Oxidized or contaminated hypo, or yung hypochemical natin is yung ammonium thiosulfate, or yung wash natin, yung tubig, is contaminated. Also caused by prolonged development in old, exhausted, oxidized, and dirty developer. So, nagkakos din ng stain kapag old na yung solusyon natin. Na dapat palitan na sana, pero okay, so next, we have the image appearance, radiographic fault, and underlying causes. So, parang summary siya ng lahat ng mga causes ng ating artifacts. So we have a different appearance on the radiograph when it is too dark, too light, or it has a poor radiographic contrast. So when we say radiographic contrast, it is the difference in black and white. Black and white. So yan na. So difference in black and white. That is contrast or radiographic contrast. Delete natin. So, if the appearance is too dark, so pwedeng overexposed or overdeveloped. So, medyo natagal yung pag-expose natin, longer time, or natagalan sa developer. Pwede rin caused by film fog. Film fog due to light, chemicals, aging, radiation. So, yung cause ng overexposure, so masyadong mataas ang KVP and MAS setting, overdeveloped, masyadong concentrated yung developer natin, or matagal siya sa developer, or masyadong mataas yung developer temperature. So, yan yung mga posible kung bakit may team siya due to overdevelopment. Sa film fogging, so sabi ko age fog, light fog, ano ba yan? Light fog, X-ray or radiation fog. So, light leaks from the cassette, exposure to X-rays, light leaks sa dark room, or yung safe light mo is hindi tama yung wattage niya or masyado siyang malapit sa working bench or sa loading bench. Under exposure, so if it's too light, so pwedeng masyadong mababa yung setting mo sa KVP and MAS, developing time too short or masyadong diluted, hindi malabnaw, ano ba tawag doon? Basta. Kapag nagtimpla ka ng kape, parang more on tubig siya kaysa sa kape. Yun. Exhausted developer, inadequate replenishment rate, automatic processor, which is not cleaned regularly, reflux of all developer from waste containers. So, bumalik yung sa automatic processor, bumalik yung exhausted developer, or the temperature is too low, or yung thermostat sa ating automatic processor is hindi gumagana, or hindi na warm up yung processor natin. So, we will discuss more on this automatic processing sa next chapter natin. Poor radiographic contrast because of underdevelopment. So, underdevelopment, ito yung mga causes, developing time too short. Ito siya. Ito yung mga, ano ba yan? So, ito yung causes niya. Ito yung ibig sabihin ng C above. High KVP setting, film fogging. Ito naman sa film fogging. One of these may be the cause. Scatter radiation and film out of date or pa-expire na siya or expire na talaga. So, kaya nangyayari yung mga appearance na too dark, too light, and poor radiographic contrast. Parang groggy na yata ako kanina pa to eh. Anyway, malapit na tayo matapos. So, these are examples of artifacts. So, the rest will be pictures na. So, water stains. So, ito siya. So, because of water, syempre, water stains nga. Ground static, because of static artifacts, ito siya. Fingerprints, as you can see, we have there. Then we have crimping. Ito siya. Crimping or kink marks. Emulsion pick off. So, nasira yung emulsion niya mismo. Ito. Watermarks. Backscatter radiation. So, pag sinabing backscatter radiation, yung back portion ng cassette nag-expose sa anatomy. So, ito yung lock siya ng cassette. Dapat hindi siya makikita. Pero dahil sa backscatter radiation, so, andyan siya. Moire effect, also called a zebra effect or zebra artifact or zebra pattern artifact. So, dahil yan sa mga grid lines, ito, mga lines. Caused by placement of a grid in a bucket tray. Kasi yung bucket tray, meron na siyang built-in grid. So, naglagay ka pa ulit ng grid. So, doble-doble na. Warped cassette, or because of that, it has a light leak. So, dahil may sira yung cassette mo, hindi na siya hindi na siya masara ng mabuti. So, nagkaroon ng leakage ng white light. So, ito siya. Ito din. Then, we have intensifying screen dirt. Ito siya. Dirt sa intensifying screen. So, artifact din. Ito siya. So, bra. Strap ng bra. Scratches. So, obviously. Air bells. So, ito yung mga marks kapag hindi masyadong na-agitate. Reticulation marks. So, nag-occur siya kapag hindi pantay ang temperature ng developer tsaka fixer. Hair streaks, kapag hindi napusod yung buhok, especially ng babae, so, nakikita siya. Reversal, so yung bones na dapat puti, nagiging itim. And yung tissue na dapat black or dark, nagiging puti. Ganyan. Reversal artifact. Freeling, so yung film natin parang tawag dito, parang unti-unti na siyang naaagnas kung sa tao pa. So, track bubbling, so bubble marks also, screen marks dahil sa intensifying screen, quantum mattle or the noise. So, this is most common if you are using low MAS. Okay? And also common din siya sa mga CT, sa mga digital radiography. Pressure marks, ayan siya. So, nadaganan siya. Dirty rollers, as you can see here. Here. Roller marks. Ayan. Ayan, roller marks. Curtain effect. Ito siya. Taas. So, yellowish na brown na hindi ko maintindihan ng color. Pi line, ayan, it occurs 3.14, 0.16 ang distance. Hyperretention, so yellowish stain, ito siya. Then last slide, so we have here examples of static artifacts. So iba-iba. So tree-like branching. So parang marami siyang branch. Ito din. Sa teeth. Ito, marami sila. Okay, so that's it. So this is the coverage of our artifacts. Radiographic film, radiographic film artifacts, correct. So thank you. If you have questions, feel free to message me and I'll get back to you when I have read it, okay? So thank you and good day.